Banana, Mr. Keith.
It's me, yes. Well, I tell you what, Keith, let's spend the next hour or so talking football. Yes. Now, I'd like to no, we don't think so. Not today. There are too many pundits. They're all in Germany anyway, which is probably the best place for them. I think there's too much of it. They're all very well paid, staying in nice hotels. All they have to do is to talk about a game that we all saw anyway. I don't know. I mean, I'm a football fan, a fanatic, but there is too much of a good thing. There's the hysteria too. The sweet Adeline. It's a bit of a dirge, you see. I maybe alienate both of our viewers this morning, but I'm sorry about that. The basic plain facts are that there are other good things. You can switch across other good channels, and you never know, you might arrive on Mirador television. I mean, for goodness sake, talk about pundits talking about nothing for hours. Welcome to Mirador television. Actually, we talk a lot of sense, and no doubt in the next 10 to 15 minutes, even though it's a Wednesday, I'm sorry about that. Thursday, tomorrow, I have an assignment in Brighton, which I'll tell you about. Today is Wednesday, middle of the week, middle of the empire, really, here. And as you can see, very, very patriotic here with the St. George behind me. Lovely man, won't say a word against him. And it's perfectly good to be in a pub that obviously shares football with everybody, which is probably the best way to see it, as opposed to sitting at home in your little tiny little places, wherever you are, watching it. You can watch it with other people, and you can all join in. I bet they don't sing that in. I doubt whether they sing it in this pub. They're far too sophisticated, I think. And I have to be careful what I say, because Declan is here this morning and probably listening to every word I say. I wonder whether he likes football. We don't know.
Gosh, he's an absolute fanatic.
Is he?
He's got 16 bloody screens in this pub alone.
Surrounded by it, yes. I mean, because Scotland are playing tonight, dare I mention it, and they're a little worried. One of them has said that he vows to show real Scotland and put humiliating Germany defeat behind them. Well, best of luck, Scotland, I say to that. And we'll have to see. And then England, of course, play, I think, on Thursday, and they're playing Denmark. And that won't be a pushover either. Here we are talking football. I apologise, sorry. So it's a nice morning.
It is.
Which is a bonus, for goodness sake. There are nice things happening, and plenty of nasty things, of course. But we don't bother about those here on Mirador. Not at the moment, anyway. Nice things today for me. Well, I had a little bus ride up from downtown Lewes to main town, I suppose, or vice versa. The bus eventually arrived. The driver was a splendid man. I had a chat with him. Said, "You like your job?" "I love it." He said, "I love it. I love this job." I said, "Do you prefer the long routes or the sort of short ones belting around?" "I like the longer routes," he said. They're the more... Yes, and I understood that, actually. A journey to Tunbridge Wells, which is probably about an hour from here by bus, is a splendid journey on the bus. At the top, of course, go on the top deck if you can. And it's a lovely, lovely journey. But this bus arrived eventually because I was coming up here, you see, with my 11 o'clock appointment. And standing there was an elderly gentleman, and I say that as an elderly gentleman myself, you understand? And I thought he had his hat on, and it was tie. He was a smart man. And I said, hello. And he sort of looked at me and he said, hello. And you know, he went to the same school as I did. Isn't that amazing? He went to the same school as I did. His name was Tony Green. And I've known him for many, many years. And funnily enough, talking sport for a moment, I was in a little cricket team with him when we played in Croydon. And I was in about the fourth 11, I think it was. And Tony and I were in that same team. And there he was on the bus today with a stick, hat, still the same Tony in his own sweet way. And he was off to the dentist. I prefer coming here to Mirador.
There's the pain is sweeter.
It's exactly right. You know, fewer extractions, I think we can safely say. Plenty of fillings, though, and I've got some rather good fillings for you today.
But you know, John, going back, I always thought that playing for the thirds or the fourths was much nicer than playing for the mainstream because you didn't care in the third or fourth. If you made a goof, you laughed and had a good time and drank beer over it. If you did it in the first, you didn't dare face your teammates.
It's absolutely true. I couldn't agree. A fair philosophy, if I may say so, on a Wednesday morning.
Wisdom of the third team.
Well, entirely right. No, it all makes enormous sense. It was a good bus ride, as I said. And just before that, I'd popped into the cancer research shop here, which is right in the middle of the precinct area in Lewes, and is doing a grand job, raising loads and loads of dosh for a wonderful charity, Cancer Research. And there's a lady sitting in the window familiar to Mirador viewers, because there was an excellent little program about this lady not so long ago, and no doubt it could be repeated at some point, and probably is. Her name is Leslie Nora Hills. She's a portrait artist. She's a lovely lady, and I went to see her today for one specific purpose, and that is she created for me a portrait of our hero, Max Miller. And I said, would you do this please for me? I said, we will donate some funds to the cancer research, which we did. And then when it's complete, we'll put it up so that everybody can see it. I said, I'll show it on Mirador television. That'll create some interest. Put it on Facebook. Yes, we're on Facebook as well. Max Miller Appreciation Society Facebook page. And I said, in addition to that, we will auction this because it will be a collector's item beyond measure of doubt. And we will auction it at our wonderful garden party in Brighton, August the 11th, which we've mentioned several times here, which is what we're going to do. And she has produced this wonderful picture. It's in acrylic, which means it will never fade. It is unframed, but I rather like it unframed. Not dissimilar to a rather handsome painting of a certain Lord Keith Hayes.
Is that still there?
Yes, in the window.
Yes, I say.
Surprisingly enough, there's one of him and there's one of me as well in the window there. People say, I saw you in the window in Lewis. I said, was I live? No, I don't think so. So she's a supreme artist. She does it all for charity. She sits in this little window and has moved about a little bit, but is there now this morning. And she creates these paintings. Would you like to see, not the painting itself, but a photograph that I've got which sums it all up beautifully? Would you like to see that?
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Very special. And this is the first time on British television. So it's a bit of a first as well. And I hope people will say that is special. And Leslie tells me that as a result of putting it in her window already, she's had what you and I would expect, a lot of interest, not only in the painting, but also in the man himself. One or two people might say, who was that? Majority of them say, that's our Maxi Miller. And then some of them say, I remember when you used to come to Lewis, etc., which he did. So here comes the picture, and it's going to be auctioned on August the 11th. And how about that? I don't know whether you can see that. You can't see me now. Is it there?
Oh,
Keith?
yes. No, we've got a very good view of it.
Oh, that's
Very
wonderful.
good view, yes.
That is absolutely splendid. The colours are absolutely spot on. We've discussed that at great length. He's wearing one of his suits. He had a whole range of suits, of course. This was one of them. The famous Homburg hat, the white Homburg hat, a rather formal tie, unusual tie, I think you can see there. Very, very smart indeed. He was indeed. He was not a scruffy comedian, as so many of them are these days. He had style and flair, and it came across the footlights, and people loved him for it. And he was cheeky. Above all else, he was cheeky, and you can almost tell that if you look pretty closely at those eyes. A lot of the people in the audience used to say, if there's one thing about Max, it's his eyes, his cheeky eyes, you know. And if he catches sight of you in the third row of the stalls and starts directing his comments to you, watch out. I know what you're thinking, lady. You're a nice-looking lady. I like nice-looking ladies, don't I, dear? Etc. That was the pure Max Miller. He died in 1963 and will be remembered forever by us in Brighton and elsewhere as well. So that's the picture, and it's going to be auctioned, and I'm very hopeful that there will be a load of people who would like to acquire it. Absolutely no reason why not. It's original and it's special. So you don't see many of those around, which is good. So that's the first bit of good news. The other thing is, I thought, in keeping with that, really, we like talking about the good old days, don't we, Keith? It's very important that we do that. And today I've got a couple of items relating to Max Miller, because he was very much part of the music hall, as we know, the music hall tradition, very first stand-up comic ever. And he was in good company on many occasions, many shows all over the United Kingdom, particularly in London. He was so popular in London, the Chiswick Empire, the Finsbury Park Empire, the Croydon Empire, all of those theatres, often Max Miller would be top of the bill. Now, he wasn't top of the bill on an occasion that I have here, but this too is special. It's in my little bag that I brought with me today. And this, you will probably see, is a program, and it's a program for music hall at the Palace, funnily enough, which seems appropriate. And when you say which palace is that, the answer is the Palace Pier in Brighton. And this is the program for the final bill, final show on the Palace Pier. And if I can, I'll try and tell you what year it was. It was some long time ago, I'm afraid, and it's a bit of a collector's item, this, and some of the names in it you would not believe. There it is, that's the program. A collector's item, if ever there was one. And some of the names in here. I've also seen another name. I'm going to digress for a moment. And we all know how good I am at digressing. Yeah. I'm going to digress because there's also a name I've just noticed at the back. Again, I'm not sure what you can see at home, but the name actually is Eva Petulengro. Now, that may not mean anything to you. It meant a lot to me and to a lot of people in the Brighton area because she was, if you like, a clairvoyant and a Romany palmist as well, and was famous and had a position on many occasions, but principally the forecourt of the Palace Pier. She was there and she would read people's fortunes, etc. And I mention her today because she died very recently, and I'd like to remember Eva Petulengro today on Mirador Television. She'd have loved Mirador Television, and she would have been part of it. In point of fact, perhaps we should have had, Keith, perhaps we should have a clairvoyant here.
Why not?
Exactly. I mean, we talk about the past all the time. We could have someone here talk about the future as they...
Absolutely.
That's a good idea.
Do you know a clairvoyant?
Do I know a clairvoyant? Let me just think about that. I'll just consult my crystal ball. Just one moment, please.
tea leaves.
No, it's
as
looking
well.
pretty cloudy at the moment. Oh, sorry, that's the coffee. No, I don't think I know a clairvoyant, but she was extraordinary, and she had a lovely mother as well, whose name was Petrolengro. Petrolengro is the sort of gypsy. They don't like that term, but the travelling people. It was a very, very common name. It's akin to Smith, by the way. So if your name was Petrolengro, it was similar. There were Petrolengros everywhere, in Blackpool, most seaside resorts, but Eva was the number one Petrolengro. And this show and this program, let me just tell you one or two of the names, say no more after that. This was the final show on the Palace Pier. Bob and Alf Pearson. They were a duo who used to sing to the piano. There was Leslie Saroni. Now, Leslie Saroni was a lyricist. He wrote songs, and he did one little song called I Lift Up My Finger, and I say, tweet, tweet. That was Leslie Saroni. You remember, I know there's that lady in, where is it? Oh, no, Rusper, outside Horsham, one of our popular viewers. She remembers that, Leslie Saroni. Then there was a man called, now wait a minute, how about Nat Jackley? He was a comedian, a splendid man, Nat Jackley. I really admired him. I interviewed him on one or two occasions. He was special. Then finally, top of the bill was the great Sandy Powell. Can you remember that? He was lovely. We talked about him before. He worked, and his assistant was a lady called Kate, or Kay, I beg your pardon, and assisted by Kay. And he was absolutely supreme, a special guest artist on this show. And also on the bill were Elsie and Doris Waters.
Oh, gosh.
Gert.
Yes, I'd forgotten that.
Daisy. That was absolutely special. And it was on Sundays at 7:45, Sunday to Friday at 7:45, and matinee 6 and 8:15. That's two shows a night. And these were not young artists.
No.
These are some of the older artists. And it was the last show, sadly, ever on the Palace Pier in Brighton. And it was directed by and produced by a man called Arthur Lane. So there it is, a little tribute to nostalgia and the halcyon days of music hall, and Max Miller, of course, as well, which is special.
Absolutely.
Nothing much else at the moment, Keith. It's another Wednesday, as we've said, so we need to move on a little bit. I did bring a little publication.
Oh, good.
You'll like this one again. It's we probably can't see that. This is a magazine that's called It's a Piece of Cake, which is RAF slang, and it's a book full of slang used by servicemen, most of them probably unmentionable.
Yes.
Yes. During the Second World War, with drawings by a very well-known cartoonist called David Langdon. And he was very, very big. All the national papers had them by Langdon. And he's done some quite funny little cartoons. There is a senior officer in the Royal Air Force, stand to attention, Henty, 2728589, senior aircraftsman Henty. That was me, I'll have you know. And I was a SAC. Remember that. None of you oiks. I was a senior aircraftsman. I'll have you know that, madam. If there is another war, and we hope there won't be, I will be there with my Olivetti, typing furiously, standing routine orders and all the rest of it.
Kept your hand in on driving a typewriter. Yes.
Absolutely. I was not a five-finger man. I was a two-finger job.
Yes. Actually, in my heyday as a journalist, I was a two-finger job, but I was as fast as anybody.
Oh, they tried to when you go into the service for 2 years national service, they tried to drum everything out of you. Yeah. And they even pour lots of... I was told, I don't know whether Declan could confirm this, you may have heard the rumours, but there was a rumour going around for reasons that I don't wish to pursue at the moment here on a family-orientated television station. But there was a rumour that our tea was doctored with bromide.
Oh.
And that was supposed to sort of curb our enthusiasm for members of the opposite sex.
Yes.
Well, not that we ever saw any members of the opposite sex for a start. The only time we were actually released into town, the town was Walsall. It's not the most exotic of places, I can assure you. And I'm sure the young ladies up in Walsall are very attractive, but we never saw any of them. And even if we had done, drinking all this bromide tea, we'd have probably spent a bit of time eating a bit of cake with them. It wouldn't be quite so much fun. Very strange. You've never heard of that, actually, doctoring soldiers and airmen?
No, I haven't actually.
Ah,
I've heard of doctoring certain things like John Henty's drink.
Yes.
But
nothing specifically.
Yeah.
Well, that's just warning for all of you. And by the way, for anybody with a medical bent, I apologise. You know, it must be awful having a medical bent. If you do, then you'll probably know that I'm talking a little bit of rubbish and that bromide would probably have killed you. I'm not sure. I don't know about that. All I know, it was a rumour, and it did explain why the tea tasted so foul. That could have been the other reason. Those were strange days. I remember right at the start of our training camp just outside Walsall at a place called Cannock Chase, which is quite famous. And we would all be distributed. I mean, when you went for food, I have to tell you this, you didn't have a plate. There were no plates. There were billy cans or whatever they're called. So you put the main course in there, and you put your pudding in there, and you put a bit of bread in another one. And you had to bring those, and you had your own knife, fork, and spoon. And then at the end of the meal, you had to swill it all around in a boiling hot tank of water. And frequently, on 2 occasions, within the first 4 weeks, I dropped both my knife and fork into the boiling water. And so I ended up, of course, having to eat everything with my fingers. Not much fun.
Ethiopian style.
Ethiopian style. Actually, I've never actually eaten in Ethiopia, but I did go there once. Since you mentioned it, people often say that this program is thoroughly rehearsed. Well, very obviously isn't. And so a quick reference there to Ethiopia, you might think, well, John, you can dismiss that. There's no point in pursuing Ethiopia. Would you know that I actually nearly met the man at the top, a man called Haile Selassie,
yes.
Right? Yes, he was the #1 mega man and revered in Ethiopia. And on one occasion, I was in Beirut. Here we go. Oh, my God. Oh, John's off on his travels again. I was in Beirut, and we were offered the opportunity to go inland on a coach to a place called Baalbek. What an amazing memory I have, Baalbek. Now, that was all very well. Beirut was fine. We rather liked, actually, the main centre there. But anyway, we got on this coach, and it was pouring with rain. And we seemed to drive for hours and hours and hours through the most sort of arid land. And then we got to a certain point, and there was a bloke standing in the road, if not a bloody great barrier, which said, closed, due to the visit of Haile Selassie. So the coach driver said, I said, what's that mean? He said, we're turning round. I said, what do you mean turning round? We've travelled for 5 hours to see Baalbek, and you're telling, well, I'm sorry, mate, it's closed. It's early closing, and there's this geezer, the Ayatollah, whatever he is, him. He's going to be there. There's celebrations, and you'd be in danger. So you know what? We drove all the way back, facing into the wind and the rain. The windows of this rickety coach were no good, so it was all coming in. We got drowned, and that was my only experience, I have to say, of the Lebanon and equally Ethiopia. I mean, these are stunning stories that you will not hear anywhere else on television. And I tell you what, you should be deeply grateful for that. Here we are with the time at 11:30. Time to go. We've had a jolly good time. We've loved Max Miller. We've adored the Royal Air Force. We've seen the Palace Pier in all its glory. And we're going to say Sir Keith, Lord John Henty, congratulations. This is your life.
Yes.
And at that point, Michael Aspel suddenly burst out of a potted plant to my left with a bloody great red book, and he's going to tell the entire world through Mirador my story.
Yes, that's fantastic.
Would you like that?
I would indeed.
I'll ring Michael up. He's a personal friend of mine. He frequently watches this, I'm sure. And I want to mention to another lovely man, my good friend in South Ruislip. Deep respect for South Ruislip. A lovely man called Brian, a splendid, friendly man. And I'd like to wish him well as well. He frequently watches Mirador television, as I'm sure many people do. So that's it, really.
Yes. It is. Actually, John, you say, would I like Michael Aspel on Mirador? And actually, it's not a question of me, but I think our viewers would like Michael Aspel. But I ruminated the other day, and in that fact, I was having a conversation with someone else, a third party, about you and your energy. And I said, the vast number of people I know, we were talking about Ruby Murray or somebody like that. And I said, John has met so many people, he puts me to shame. And, the odd one is still alive.
Yes.
Well,
rather like my good friend Tony, the man on the bus, having his teeth done at this very moment. He should be finished by now. I mean, yes, lovely man. Oh, there's the fellow, look, going along there, going to the prison probably. Maybe, I don't know. There's so much life going on.
Absolutely. Sometimes when I get in here at the crack of dawn, in fact, it's not the crack of dawn, because the crack of dawn is somewhere around the disgusting hour of 2 o'clock in the morning.
What?
Oh, yes. When I get up, it's like Main Street with lights at 5 o'clock now. But I sometimes play little bits and pieces. And I think I mentioned the other day that one of the artists that I'm very fond of, who died a couple of years ago, was Steve Harley. And I have on my little, very small collection of music, Steve Harley, and one of his last performances of Come Up and See Me, Make Me Smile. Right? Are we ready for a little burst?
Yeah. You're going to sing it,
and you?
No, I think you.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I only sing in duet with you. It's the only time I make public appearances.
Are we ready for this?
Are we ready? Yes.
Not sure about this. Is this the Cockney Rebel?
That's it. Cockney Rebel. Yes.
See, it's amazing. Somebody's watching it. That gentleman in Poynings, that's it. He's saying it's amazing. These two old people, they're talking about Cockney Rebel and Steve Harley. I don't believe it. And now he's just called his wife from the kitchen. He's going to sing that song. What song? The song about, is he? He's just invited the other one to sing it, but the other one said he won't. I see. Yeah. I don't blame him, really.
But I'm twisting his arm, because when I sing, it's like clearing the room. But when you join in, it is wonderful harmony.
Oh, my God. You say the nicest things, yes. Well, you've certainly cleared the room. Not a soul in here, I can tell you. So I've got to go. So I'm going to leave you singing.
Don't go for a minute or two. Because when I was having the conversation about you and your background, I said, the number of people and is that you have met, and we were mentioning some of the Northern Ireland favourites, and I was watching the Steve Harley thing, and I am fascinated by session singers.
Yes,
the young ladies that go.
Yes.
And do. And I knew in Northern Ireland a session singer who was a session singer permanently for Clodagh Rogers.
Who? Clodagh Rogers?
Yes. Do you remember Clodagh Rogers? Yes. And her name was Polly. And I thought, disgustingly, because she was very kind to me when I was in Northern Ireland, disgustingly, I never followed up on the friendship. She was married. There's nothing improper, and I lost track. And I thought, how in God's name do I possibly track her down? All I know is that she was a session singer named Polly, and she was a session singer who supported Clodagh Rogers. Now, if you were a fan of Clodagh Rogers, who was a big, big star, and the reason I thought is she appeared in the European Eurovision Song Contest several times.
Didn't win though.
No, she didn't. But she was a very good singer, and there are 2 or 3 of her pieces that still people ask for. But I would love to track down Polly.
Maybe she's watching.
If you're is a Clodagh Rogers fan, please get hold of Clodagh and say, who was Polly?
Yes.
Because Keith wants to know.
Ta-da!
Ta-da, ta-da.
Are you going to sing that song before I go?
Yes.
Right.
Come up and see me, make me smile. You do what you want for a while. Do.
Yes. Well, I'm speechless. Believe me, madam, I know that is unlikely.
But that's actually our signature tune. Is the Whiffenpoof song.
It can be, but not today.
Not today.
I'm away.
Not today. I know how to clear the room, particularly of John.
So it's a Wednesday. We'll have to see. Things that the world is changing, Keith. I'll keep in touch with you. Absolutely. Thursday normally, so we'll see how.
Okay. You still, whichever, if I may say so, but I will reschedule to make sure that John appears each week. The demand is enormous, and sometimes when I leave here at sort of about 12:30, there are young ladies lined up with autograph books at the door saying, "Has John gone?
Yes.
Has John gone?"
No, I appreciate.
I have to run the gauntlet and sort of say, "Yes, but he'll be back next Thursday."
Oh, right. So
and I said he'll be back next Thursday, and you weren't. You were back next Wednesday. So they're all going to turn up tomorrow.
Right.
No coffee, mate.
No coffee. Oh, we were out of coffee.
I've got to go, Sir Keith.
Right.
Pressures.
We were out of coffee, and the chief of staff went down to try and get some himself. And he's come
I
back.
am very impressed.
And he's failed.
No, gotta go. Really got to go, Keith. Seriously.
Very well.
Oh, yeah. It's late. Getting late. Got to get the lunch ready.
Very well.
Okay. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Thanks.
Now, we're not going to see you next Thursday because that's tomorrow. But we see you a week.
I would think so next Thursday.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you, chaps.
Very well.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Thank you, Declan.
Nice to see you, mate.
Yeah, and you, old friend.
See you later,
Yeah, keep trucking.
Well, that's it for today. We've had 1 or 2 slight technical problems, but only slight. I took time out to check to make sure that we were had the sound enough for the majority of Bernard Brown's interview, and we did. So I'm happy to say that we got retrieved most of what we set out to do this morning. And all in all, it has turned out to be not a bad day. Not a bad day. And that is without Declan making an appearance this morning. Well, he did for a little while, but not yesterday. He really made a star appearance. He really did. He was on for some minutes. And that's always a good sign. Now, you say, if you're not used to tuning in, who is Declan? Declan is our chief of staff at Mirador, but he is also the landlord at the Black Horse pub. And a very fine pub does he run. And they have a quiz night, which is very, very popular. And it is not on the second Sunday in July because of the Euros. It's been moved to the third Sunday. So if you turn up on the second Sunday, you'll be faced with football. Now, if you're a footballer, that's okay. But if you're not a footballer, you'll be actually stunned and astonished. So it's the week after. However, I may say that the very fine meals that you get here, and it's a pub, it doesn't pretend to be, no pretense of being a posh restaurant. It's a pub. The food is extremely good. That is on daily and the roast on a Sunday. And Declan is here to make sure that everything runs smoothly. So, from the House of Declan to the House of Hayes, I suppose, but back tomorrow morning, which is Thursday, at 8 o'clock, as usual, and we'll see what we can cock up tomorrow. This is Keith Hayes. That says John Henty. Don't be fooled. I am not John Henty. John left the building a little while ago. This is Keith Hayes, Mirador Television, Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock to vaguely noon. Vaguely noon, because we never know when we're going to end, because we never know what's going to happen in the daytime while this program is on. Toodle-pip. And we're still here. Oh, I see what we have to do. There. Okay. Toodles.